All right, now we're going to take a look at proportions, which are equations that show that two ratios are equal. So we learned about ratios. Now we're going to use them in the context of proportions. So here would be an example of a proportion. And you want to think of equivalent fractions or simplifying fractions. That's going to be a helpful technique here. So if I have 5/10, well, that's like saying 1/2. 5 out of every 10 people are men, or 5 out of every 10 people are women. That's like saying 1 out of every 2. They're the same proportion. They represent the same measurement. 5 out of 10 is the same thing as saying 1/2. Another example of a proportion would be 3/4 being equal to 9/12. And with this one, and we'll look at the other one in blue as well, one way to look at it is we could say, okay, let's compare our numerators, the numbers on top. If I have a 3 and then the other side of the equal sign is 9, well, what did I do to that 3 to get to 9? Not using addition or subtraction, but using multiplication or division. Well, here I multiplied by 3. And turns out that's exactly what I did on the bottom. 4 times 3 is 12. Same thing over here in blue. If we go left to right, we're dividing that 5 by 5 to get 1. And then we're also dividing that 10 by 5 to get 2. You can also go the other way around if you want to use division. So, or actually multiplication, we'll look at this one first. So 1 times 5 is going to give us 5. And then 2 times 5 is going to give us 10. Same thing over here. Instead of doing multiplying by 3, we can divide by 3 if we're going from right to left. 9 divided by 3 is 3. And then 12 divided by 3 is going to be 4. So a few instances where you'll see proportions would be things like gas mileage for a car, right? That's an expression of miles per gallon. We might look at a question that involves that. We talk about money, right? How much, how many, if you're making $7 per hour, per 1 hour, and you wanted to figure out, well, how much money is that going to be per 1 year, right? You can use proportions. You would be able to set these two fractions up equal to each other. And in the next video, I'll show you one of two methods for solving for an unknown in a proportion expression like that. So let's do that real quick, actually, with the dollars per hour. Let's say you make $12 per hour, and you want to know how much do you make per month. So the proportion that you would set up, or the two fractions that you would use, well, we know one of them right here. You are making $12 for every 1 hour of work that you do. So you don't have to write these terms, the dollar sign of the hour. I'll just do it now just so we know what we're talking about, but you would just write 12 over 1 if you didn't want to use those. So $12 per 1 hour is equal to, well, some number of dollars per 1 month. We don't know what that is, and that's going to be our variable here. So we showed here in these examples that if you can see what you're multiplying your numerator by or dividing it by, or try to find the equivalent fraction, right? Because 3/4 and 9/12 are equivalent fractions, and 5/10 and 1/2, those are equivalent fractions. If we can kind of do that over here, we'll be able to figure out how much money you would make in 1 month. And I should also mention that this example, you would be working every hour that exists in that month, which is unrealistic, obviously, because you need to sleep and eat. But for simplicity's sake, we'll just keep it at that. So one thing that we need to do first is we need to make our units the same. So over here, I'm talking in terms of dollars per hour. Over here, I should also be talking in terms of dollars per hour. So let's switch this up to be $12 per 1 hour is equal to X dollars per 1 month. Well, how many hours are there in a month? Let's say there's 30 days in a month, 24 hours in each day. So altogether there are 720 hours in a month. So now that we have our units or our proportions, they're in terms of the same units, we can do this comparison trick that we were doing here. Like, what did we multiply, divide by to get from one numerator to the other or from one denominator to the other? So I'm looking over here, and to go from 1 to 720, I multiplied by 720. And we saw that over here, that whatever you divide or multiply on the numerator or denominator, you're going to multiply or divide by that same number on the other numerator denominator, depending on what you started with. So if I did times 720 down here to go from one denominator to the other, I'm going to do times 720 up top to get the new numerator. Because remember, this proportion equation, it's showing that two ratios are equal. So whatever I do to one denominator to get to the other one, I got to do the same thing to the numerator so that they cancel each other out. The value stays the same. So 12 times 720 is going to give us $8,640 per 720 hours. And we know that 720 hours is equivalent to 1 month. So your monthly salary would be $8,640 per month. And again, this is if you work nonstop every waking hour of every day of an entire month, which is impossible. So you probably would make less than this, and you can tweak the numbers to fit your specific scenario. But we'll look at some more examples moving forward on maybe how to solve proportions a bit better. There's 2 techniques we'll go over.